are better, more waterproof, etc., to get them in. Non-food items, tarpaulins and everything related to that.
Some 12,000 patients are currently waiting in Gaza to be evacuated for medical reasons, asking for medical corridors to be able to go out of the territory. Now in Lebanon, the Israeli occupation army bombed several cities in the south of the country on Thursday, the next day of the entry into force of a ceasefire after more than a year of a devastating Zionist aggression on Lebanese territory. Said Bouazi tells us more in this report.
The Lebanese news agency ANI reported early Thursday in the cities of Ait Shab and Bint Jbeil in the south of Lebanon. An airstrike also targeted a car in the town of Markaba, causing 2 injuries, the same source said. The news agency reported that tanks of the Zionist occupation forces fired shells at the town of Wazani and in the outskirts of Kfar Shuba in the south of Lebanon. Reconnaissance aircraft of the Zionist army also flew over the districts of Tyre and Beit Jbeil. The Zionist army has banned Lebanese civilians from accessing 10 villages in the south until further notice. A ceasefire came into force early Wednesday in Lebanon after more than a year of a barbaric Zionist aggression against this country, claiming nearly 4,000 Lebanese martyrs, mostly women and children. In this connection, Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati has called to put pressure on the Zionist entity to stop its violations of the ceasefire agreement, said a statement from the Lebanese Council of Ministers. Najib Mikati said that the violations of the ceasefire agreement committed on Thursday had caused injuries and significant damage. The death toll resulting from the Zionist aggression against Lebanon has risen to 3,961 martyrs and 16,520 wounded, according to the Lebanese authorities.
The 48th Conference of the European Coordination for the Support of the Sahrawi People is taking place today in Lisbon, Portugal, in a context that requires a greater mobilization of solidarity with the Sahrawi cause around the world to pave the way for a new phase of international solidarity to highlight the situation in Western Sahara, the last colony in Africa. Earlier, the Portuguese capital hosted the trade union meeting in solidarity with the Sahrawi people and their just cause entitled For the Right to Self-Determination and Independence. The meeting addressed the Sahrawi labor struggle, the legal battle and the suffering of the Sahrawi people under occupation, as well as the unification of trade union efforts to advocate for the just Sahrawi cause. On the sidelines of the trade union meeting, the head of the UCOCO, Pierre Gallon, has said that this year's edition is being held in a particular context marked by the decision by the European Justice Tribunal, which must be applied in all the countries of the European Union.
Doublage. It's important to hold it in Lisbon because 50 years ago the Carnation Revolution took place while Spain betrayed the Sahara but not respecting its commitment commitments to the United Nations and thus divided the Sahara between Mauritania and Morocco.
Still with the Western Sahara fire, the Parliamentary Forum in Solidarity with the Sahrawi People held in Lisbon, Portugal, has denounced in its final communique the deteriorating human rights situation in occupied Western Sahara, calling on the Moroccan government to allow human rights organizations and independent international observers to enter the territory to assess the reality of this situation. Majid Mila.
The forum called on the United Nations to include the defense and respect of human rights within the mandate of the United Nations mission for the referendum in Western Sahara. The parliamentarians also reiterated their unequivocal support for the decisions of the Court of Justice of the European Union, which annulled last October the fisheries and agriculture agreement signed between the European Union and Morocco, which violated the right to self-determination of the people of Western Sahara. On the 15th anniversary of the Portuguese democracy, the parliamentarians renewed the call for the United Nations resolutions relating to the Sahrawi issue to be implemented and its citizens to be given the opportunity to freely determine the future through the organization of a referendum on self-determination. The parliamentarians also expressed concern over the deteriorating human rights situation in the occupied territories, urging the Moroccan government to allow human rights organizations and independent international observers access to the territory. They also expressed their concern about the evolution of the political situation at the international level, including the recent decisions taken by countries such as France and Spain in favor of the so-called autonomy plan for Western Sahara proposed by the Moroccan government. The final statement appealed to the Portuguese government to take a clear position in support of the self-determination referendum in Western Sahara and to show the same will it showed during its defense of self-determination in East Timor. Finally, the statement called on all parliamentarians around the world on the 50th anniversary of the occupation of Western Sahara in 2025 to introduce motions in their parliaments in defense of the respect for human rights in Western Sahara, as well as in support of its right to self-determination.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International, next program on the occasion of the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people.
إذا متت مع أمي كان أحسن ما أشوف يعني العذاب هذا والمرض هذا بشوفه، المأساة هذه بشوفها كل حاجة عندي كليتهم يعني كل اللي كنت أعزهم وأحبهم كليتهم راحوا.
The International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, an occasion to reiterate our support to the Palestinians' right to peace and freedom.
Palestine, Jannah waits for your innocent lives. Palestine, Palestine, we will be free of Palestine. We will be free of Palestine. Oh, believe in me. في أمان، إحنا عايشين في حصار، إحنا لو متنا أحسن، هل لو متت ما شفتيش الحياة اللي بتشوفينا بتتكتل، إحنا بنشوف كل الموت والإصابات والجرحى، بفتح التلفزيون ما لاقيش إلا تشريح جنازات ولا قصف ولا دبابات.
Hello, dear listeners, and welcome on Radio Algeria International for a special program on the occasion of the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people. This year, we're celebrating this day amid a complex and difficult situation for Palestinians as the Israeli genocidal aggression against Gaza is continuing. The UN Security Council is still striving for a ceasefire deal, and the Israeli occupation is trying to sustain its propaganda waged by the mainstream media against the Palestinian cause for decades now. The Palestinian death toll from the Israeli onslaught since October 2023 has risen to 44,300 reported fatalities, and the repercussions of hunger in the Gaza Strip reached critical levels, which makes a ceasefire urgent more than before. And to talk more about this special day and about the latest developments of the situation, we have with us South African Deputy Minister and President of Al Jamah Party, Mr. Ghani Hendricks from Cape Town. Mr. Hendricks, can you hear me?
I'm on standby.
Yes. So in a previous interview, you told me that South Africa's case against the Israeli occupation at the ICJ is not an act of solidarity, but a responsibility of the signatories of the Geneva Convention. The case started to bear fruit, especially with the arrest warrants issued for Netanyahu and his former defense minister. What is South Africa's next step or expectation in line with its battle at the ICJ?
Yeah, thank you very much. As you know, South Africa has prepared very well for both cases. We one in connection with the Convention on Genocide, and the other one where the war crimes are being committed. So we have already submitted the paperwork, and our advocates and legal eagles are ready to start presenting the case and answering any questions that may arise. We feel very confident that our case will succeed and that the criminals will be convicted, and also that Israel will be guilty of one of the worst cases of genocide.
Hopefully.
As you know, South Africa also signed the Convention on Apartheid. We are already in South Africa busy with a bill in Parliament to punish those who support Israel and support apartheid. So we are very serious about human rights. We are very serious about the conventions that we signed. And we feel that South Africa must take the lead because we suffered apartheid for many years. And we understand the harshness of apartheid, and we also understand how cruel apartheid is. And we can see in that Israel are perpetuating the worst form of apartheid that one can ever imagine. So in South Africa, because I was not white, since a child, we had to suffer under apartheid. We then decided to go on a struggle. We used to protest. That didn't work. We then went on armed struggle. And then in the end, we got a settlement where the whites stepped down. And we have a one-man, one-vote system in South Africa. We feel that there are two options for the Palestinians, a two-state solution or one man, one vote from the river to the sea. It is up to Palestinians to decide what is the best option for them, although we find that in South Africa, the one man, one vote is working very well, but maybe that is not possible in Palestine. So we are very confident going forth. We are celebrating International Palestine Day. And at the moment, we have a double approach. We're using the international courts, and we are also keeping the struggle of Palestine alive. We are busy renaming one of the most important streets in South Africa called Sandton Drive to Leila Khalid Drive. Leila Khalid was a great liberation fighter, but more important, she's associated with the struggle of the Palestinians. So while her name is on the street, it reminds us of the struggle in Palestine, especially the women and children.
Of course. Mr. Hendricks, is it high time for the world to see through the lenses of South Africa, of Algeria, of countries that have been through the same barbarity and understand that granting Palestinians the right to set up a state is the only way to end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
No, we agree fully with you. It is unfortunate that we do have a Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the very countries that helped prepare that declaration and are supposed to be the custodians are the first one to tear it to pieces. So they are not part of the civilized modern world anymore. They've gone back to centuries ago where we had the most cruel people living on this planet. And that's why we need a new civilization. And we find that by South Africa going to the international courts, we are taking the lead to show the world that if there are disputes, take it to the international courts, especially when it comes to humanitarian